fatal heart impacts, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet out. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, whenever we last left off with this series, we had Deku and his familia. Deku has killed Overhaul, taken Eri and the Cork-destroying bullets, along with his box and ring, and given Eri a place to stay. Now, Deku has also passed the Albereno of Sky's trial by accident, since he did show kindness to Eri, and tried to at least reassure her that everything will be okay. Now, with that being said, All For One's decided to make a move. And, well, a few things will currently start happening. Now, Deku and his familia, with the fact that they were able to take out one of All For One's guardians, or one of the men who were particularly a problem, they did decide to start doing more things and becoming a bit more active. It has been about 3 months since Overhaul was killed, so that does mean that it's been a bit of time. Now, in this amount of time, Deku and his familia, they started to take out factories or even forces All For One does have stationed everywhere. Now, All For One was quite annoyed with this. And, well, quite a bit of things would have happened. All For One, he does try to fix things, make more Nomu, and just send them out. However, certain areas that are vital to his operations are being taken out. And in this amount of time, he believes that he does have a mole in his organization. Now, he knows that these are never good, and he did decide to see to the matter himself, as he does find Hisashi Midoriya. Now then, we actually cut to Deku and his familia. Eri, with the help of Mr. Yaoyorozu and Vongola 9, has been moved out of the country. And Deku and his familia, they've used at least 2 of the 27 cork-destroying bullets. They wanted to do tests to see if they were real. And by using a captured villain, they were able to show, or at least find, that it was true. Now, it was quite interesting to them. A bullet that can actually destroy a quirk, take it away from somebody. These are very dangerous items in today's age. These level the playing fields between quirkless and quirked. And if you're not careful, it could happen to you. Now, along with that, Hatsume, she's finished her weapon. The gun that does fire flames. Now, she did basically at least try to put it into a rifle, but she did find that that would be a bit more complicated. Using bigger parts and other things, adjusting here and all that was hard. So she was at least able to put it into somewhat of a gun. Now, it's a handgun that can fire sky flames. Along with that, it does also work as a way to fire regular bullets. You simply have to push this button here, and a cover will come off of the magazine and allow bullets to pass through, meaning that you can fire sky flame or flame-covered bullets at the enemy. Now, this was pretty intriguing to Deku. He could use this weapon as a way to show that he does have at least a way to combat All For One. And then whenever All For One doesn't expect it, he can fire a Quirk Destroyer right at him. If the man isn't clever enough to dodge it, then that will just show that he thinks that Deku fired a regular gun, or just a regular bullet, until it would just be too close or too late for him to dodge. Now, Deku and his familia, they do go to head out, as all for one, he does make a public announcement on live television, as all for one's talking about how a traitor was recently found in his organization, and he would like to make an example of the man. Now, Deku would see his father tied to a chair on television, as Deku's heart does immediately drop. Now, everybody, they are looking at Deku, and they do see the expression on his face. He's not angry, but he did just go stock pale. All the color faded from his eyes, and he did just seem out of it for a minute. As Deku, he did look towards Reborn and inform him that he's gotta leave now. And where is that place? No. Reborn would just tell Deku, that is, this channel and their building is here. However, the broadcast, it could be at another location. No. All for one, he does continue talking, expressing that the boy known as Izuku Midoriya and his familia, they have been causing a lot of problems for him, and that currently he does wish to make an example about what happens whenever people do mess with him or try to disrupt his organization. Now, all for one would show what happens, as Dabi, he does walk into frame, and Deku, he does watch as Dabi does go to bring up his hand, and Deku, he does just close his eyes and go to look away, as Hisashi, he does just smile and then just say an address. Now, Deku does hear those words, as the moment it was finished, Hisashi was killed, and Deku, he does look up to where his father was sitting, which has just been turned into a pile of ash. Now, the broadcast would immediately cut, and Deku does just think, that address. Now, people do watch as Deku does go running away, as he does take off. Now, Reborn, he does inform Deku's familia they need to go grab vehicles and head after him, since Deku's going to murder all for one, or he's going to attempt to fight the man. Now, we do actually have Deku. As soon as he does get to the surface, he does immediately just go to blast up into the air, and go at high speeds. Now, Deku's flying over the city, and he doesn't really care who sees him at this point. As heroes and people alike, they do see something flying over the city. Many people think that it's the pro-hero known as Hawks. However, it's quite surprising whenever there's flames behind him. Now, we do actually have where Deku, he does come to land at the location and then go to look around, as we actually do have where he does run inside and there's nothing to be found. Now, Deku, he does notice that the area is clean, except for the ash on the ground. Now, Deku is just thinking, there's no vehicles outside, so either they've left or this is a trap. Deku, hearing something behind him, decides to go to spin around and go to fly up into the air, as you do actually have where mosquitoes, or some of them, were flying directly at Deku. And Deku, he does see that, as he does see Himiko Toga. Now, Deku is quite annoyed seeing this woman, since she is a major thorn in his side. Now, as Deku, he is in the air, he actually has to reach into his jacket to go and pull out one of his box weapons, as Deku does hear flames ignite, and he does immediately go blasting to his right, as he does just narrowly dodge out of the way of Dabi's flames, feeling the heat on his jacket. Now, Deku does spin around and look, as he does see Dabi just holding up his left hand, as Deku, he does look down at the man, as he does then go to look around more. He can tell that there are all villains nearby. So, Toya Todoroki, is the entire familia nearby? Well, that's surprising. I guess I should answer that question. But really, If you know my name, you know my identity, you should know the answer to that. We villains don't play fair, do we, hero? Don't call me that. No. Deku, he does look around. Okay, so let's see. Toga, Dobby, Mr. Compress, Shigaraki, and Toya. Where's Gentle Criminal? Now, as Deku does think that thought, you actually have where he does go to turn around and then see Gentle, who's blasting water, the walls of air directly at Deku. Deku going to dodge backwards and weave out of the way. As Deku does go flying back down towards the ground and then going to bring his hand backwards blasting. As Deku does start flying through the air, he does go to reach into his jacket, grabbing a box weapon. As he does grab two, and then go to bring his ring up to smash into his, skybox. Now, as that does open, Deku does actually go to try and bring his hand down to open the second one. As soon as that does actually happen, you do actually have where Tomura Shigaraki. Deku, as he does go to fly backwards, he does turn to his left and see the man. Tomura going to bring out his hand to directly blast or touch Deku's hand, or one of his legs. Now, Deku does see the guy, as Shigaraki does actually go to bring out his hand and go to grab Deku by his left leg, with all 5 fingers. Now, the moment that does actually happen, Deku does start feeling the decay rip through his clothes, and then start to feel it into his leg. As Deku does go to bring up his fist and directly go to punch him as hard as he can. In the face. Now, you actually have Deku's box weapon, or his skybox he got from Vongola 9. The weapon does come flying out, and land onto the ground as everyone does look to see it. And then Deku does actually go to bring up his other hand and go to punch it into the rain flame, or the rain box, as the giant jellyfish does also come out. Now, everyone does see that. And you do actually over Shigaraki does comment that that stolen box belonged to Overhaul. Really? I wouldn't have thought that. Deku does say going to stand back up, as part of his leg, or the back of his calf, is decayed. So, fuck, that hurt. Exactly what are you all doing here? You really couldn't tell this was an ambush. I could. However, Deku just thinking, if Bakugo did follow him, and he's moving his absolute fast, he should be here any minute now. Now, Deku just think, he has to make sure to stay on guard, or at least hold out for long enough, as Deku does order his skybox weapon to attack, as the giant honey badger does go to rush forwards, and head directly in. Now, you do actually have Dobby who does bring up his hand, and the yellow flame, he does go to punch it into his box weapon, as a large bird does fly out. Now, Deku does look towards Shigaraki, as the man does go to bring up his fist, and go to pull out a box weapon from his jacket. Deku just directly grabbing the gun and going to bring it up, as Deku does go to punch the thing on the side, or flick the thing down on the side, and then go to pull the trigger. Now, everyone does hear a gunshot ring out, as you actually have Tomura Shigaraki, who he does drop his box weapon, and his hand does start having blood run down it. Now, everyone does see that, and Deku, he's just standing there holding a smoking gun, as Deku does go to flip the thing onto the side and then go to blast him with sky flames. Now, Tomura Shigaraki just got shot in one of his lungs, and the second blast, it does actually go to shoot him directly in the chest as he goes flying backwards. Now, this is where the Familia or the League of Villains were quite surprised by that, as Deku does rush forwards and go to actually open up the storm box he stole from Shigaraki months ago, or almost a year ago. Now, as the box open does open, a large swarm of butterflies does come flying out, as they do go to meet Toga's mosquitoes head on. Now, Dobby, his box weapon, is currently fighting against Deku's, a large phoenix bird, and a honey badger fighting. And well, that's quite interesting. Dobby is trying to rush forwards, and go towards Shigaraki, along with Gentle trying to bounce around the area and move at high speeds, since he does need to help out his allies. The giant jellyfish is trying to go after Gentle, and Dabi, yeah, this is all kind of bad. Now, we do have Deku, who, yeah, he does just run forward and go to grab the Skybox or the Stormbox from Shigaraki, as Baku does come blasting through the roof and directly fly forwards, as he does go smash right into Dabi from the side. Now, Dabi does just think, fuck, okay, this is bad, as that Bakugo, he does go smashing into a shipping container with Dabi. Now, you do actually have Deku, who he does hold on to the storm box. Okay, this is interesting. I haven't seen something like this before. You little bastard. Deku looking down at the man. I see. You're still alive. Now, Deku just watches as Shigaraki, he's laying in a pool of blood. And, well, yeah. He's somewhat smiling as he does stare at Deku's leg. Now, Deku, he does go to look down at his leg, as he does go to pull up his pant leg and see that the decay is moving past his kneecap. Now, Deku does see that as Shigaraki does inform Deku about his quirk. How it's gone a little bit further than it should have. Anything he touches will immediately be decayed and destroyed. If he doesn't cut that leg off soon, Deku, he's going to lose his entire body. Now, Deku does look at that as he's going to bring up his hand and directly go to try and at least move around or at least see how his leg is doing. The moment Deku does touch the area, he does feel like flames or at least needles soaked in acid are covering his skin. And Deku does do one thing. As he does look down at Shigaraki, he does feel that the bone is starting to give out, or the bone is very weakened. And Deku does just do one thing. As Deku does go to, take off one of his gloves and go to bite down onto it. As he does go to bring his fist together and directly go to smash down into his kneecap as hard as he can. Now, Shigaraki, he does watch Deku do that. As Deku's left leg from his kneecap downwards, or from the area around his kneecap downwards, does go flying down onto the ground. And blood does start to pour out, as Deku does immediately go to cover the area with his gloves. Now, Shigaraki does watch that as Deku does go falling down to the right. And Deku does just think, he needs to focus. Okay, fuck. Now, Deku just thinking about how much this pain does hurt. And how if he doesn't keep his mind steady or his, adrenaline high enough, he is going to pass out. Now, we do actually have Bakugo, who did hear Deku scream. As Deku, he does actually start to try and get back up, after about a minute or so of lying there on the ground. Now, with that, we do actually have Toga, who she did turn her head to see that, watching as that guy literally just basically tore off his own leg to survive. Now, she was shocked and left stunned because of all that blood being wasted. And she did then watch as a minute later, Deku did start to go at least start moving and getting back up. Deku using one of his gloves to at least hover on that side. As Deku does look down at Shigaraki. So, you at least do know who you are, right? Huh? The fuck are you talking about? Your name. Shigaraki. That's not your real name. Huh? Master took me as a child. Of course it's not my real name. Oh. So you did know you were adopted. Well, that at least does take the fun out of this. Deku bring up the gun, as he is going to fire a bullet right into Shigaraki's head. Now, Toga did see that as Deku, he did actually just think, okay, so he needs to at least be sure, firing another bullet. Now, Deku is going to at least try and count the shots he's already made. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so he has 6 left. Now, Deku he actually is going to reach into his jacket. Okay, he should at least have a spare magazine. Deku finding it, going to pull it out. Perfect. Deku reaching to the other side, he does at least grab onto a magazine or at least 3 of the quirk destroying bullets. Okay, this is good. So, now, this is where Deku, you do actually have somebody who's arriving through the roof. As you do have Todoroki. Now, Deku, yeah. He was very happy that at least more people are here. And he's just thinking how far away his family are. Now, Todoroki does turn to look towards Deku, his eyes widening asking if he's alright. I'm fine, for right now deal with everyone else. Now, you do actually have Deku, who he is just trying to think. If this is all they've got, then they're going to win. They're already holding off the league with just 2 people. Bakugo being here already and trying to deal with, not Shigaraki, but trying to deal with Toya, that's good. So, things are starting to line up with the old timeline though. That's bad. They're facing off against the league. And Todoroki just went to go face off against Toya with Bakugo Katsuki. Now, Deku does go flying forwards, as he does go to directly head for Toga, and he does rush towards her. Her just staring at him as Deku does go to bring up one of his fists and directly smash her right in the gut hard. As he does go to bring up his other hand and directly go to grab her by her throat. Now, as it does happen, Toga does go to bring up one of her knives as she is going to try and stab Deku. Deku is going to grab her by her wrist and go to actually break her arm, as she is screaming in pain. Now, Toga does drop the knife. As Deku, he does ask her why she impersonated Ochako. Who? The girl last year, when you stabbed me. Her? Oh, I was told to. Huh, that's it? All you have to say. Hey, you're pretty cute though, all that blood loss. You've got to be lightheaded, right? Don't try to change the subject. Oh, I'm not. However, her pointing a direction. As Deku, he does look toward it to watch as Mr. Compress, he's trying to take on the jellyfish. Now, he does go to open one of his box weapons. And Deku does watch as a swarm of moths do come out. Now, Deku was quite surprised, as the moths are trying to take on, or at least form a barrier around his jellyfish, and stop it from moving. Now, as it is actually happening to have Deku, who does go to bring up one of his hands, and tell Toga that she is not going anywhere. Now, Toga, she does somewhat just stare at Deku, as Deku does fly towards Mr. Gentle, and go directly towards him. Now, Gentle would turn to see that, as he does see Deku. Now, Deku, as he's flying forwards with his left hand, he does hold it backwards, as with his right hand he does go to pull out the gun. Now, Gentle does go to create a barrier of air, and he does go to at least start stacking them onto each other, as Deku does at least start to pour sky flames into it, sending out a large blast that it did actually almost completely stop him in his tracks. Now, Deku, he could have called this at least equal to a double X burner or a triple X burner. Now, this is where the blast actually goes to smash through his defenses, and he did actually go to at least try to bring up his hands to go to guard against the next one, using both a combination of his quirk and his own lightning flames. Now, Deku, he did go to send out a blast, as he does send out a second attack, and then go to quickly go to flip the magazine, or at least go to drop the magazine out and go to reach into his pocket. Now, Deku, he does immediately go to split into 3, as the duplicates do go flying to the left and to the right, as do go to rush towards, Mr. Compress, or not Mr. Compress, they do go to rush towards Gentle. Now, The rest of the familia by this time, they should have arrived. And yeah. This is where Mr. Compress, he does actually at least start asking All For One if they really shouldn't be helping them. We don't know much about them. We need to see what tools they have in their toolkit first. Now, we do have Deku, who, as he was reaching into his jacket, his intuition, or at least something, told him not to do this. As Deku did go to look over his shoulder and at least try to think. Now, this is where Deku, he did just allow his people, or allow the two copies of him, to rush towards Mr. Compress. Oh my god, rush towards Gentle. Why do I keep saying Mr. Compress? Now, as the two do rush As the two do rush Gentle, you do actually have what they go to smash into his defenses. And Deku, he does go to bring up his hand, as he's going to throw out the gun, and then go to throw out his left hand behind him, as he just going to fire multiple shots. Now, Mr. Compress didn't expect that, as the two copies of Deku do smash directly into the defenses, and break through half of them, as the bullets, they do go flying through the air. One punching through multiple shields, the second one coming behind that one and actually punching into the last one, and the third actually shattering and breaking through the third one as it does hit Gentle in the chest. Now, we do actually have where Kendo should just show up. Now, Kendo should immediately go to rush forwards, as her and the Familia, this is where things start to change. Mr. Compress does get involved. And, well, a lot of things are starting to happen. Now, Denki, he does try to help Deku face off against this guy. As Deku and Denki, they do successfully take this guy down. And Mr. Compress, he does actually have a bit of an option for him. Gentle, not Mr. Compress. Gentle has an option. He either surrenders or dies. Now, the man, he did decide to give up, as he did hand over his box weapon and his ring to Denki before Deku did just smash him in the face. Now, this is where things did start to take a turn. All For One did want to show himself on the battlefield, as he does step out of where Toga was hiding them with her mist flames. Now, this is all quite strange, as Deku does see All For One and think, so that's where he's been hiding this whole time. Now, you do actually have where Kendo does come running up, asking Deku if he's alright. Huh? Oh, right, the leg. I'll be fine. Shigaraki got a hold of me. Are you alright? I'm gonna be okay. Can't say the same for him, though. Deku pointing that direction. Kendo watching as she does see Tomura Shigaraki's body. Now, you do actually have where she's quite surprised by that, as she does turn back to the battlefield and rush in. Now, we do actually have Momo and Kendo. The two, they're heading in against Mr. Compress. Mr. Compress going to bring out marbles as he's going to try and throw them outwards. As Momo, she is going to actually throw her hands downwards and create something out of her back. Kendo running by her as she is going to grab it and then going to immediately bring up an RPG, as she is going to fire it. Now, the RPG, it does fire outwards and blast into this car and rubble, or the cars and rubble. As Mr. Compress, he does then at least go to bring up his hands towards his jacket. Now, you did actually have where after the RPG was fired, Kendo should go to throw it downwards before spinning back around and going to bring up her hand, enlarging it. Grabbing Momo, as she'd actually go to spin back around and go to toss her as hard as she could. Now, Momo, she did actually start to fly through the air, as she'd go to bring up and activate her ring, and then start creating solid illusions under her feet. Now, as she did actually start to land or fall, she'd actually create one on her feet and then go and jump back upwards, using her quirk to create spring shoes, or at least something with enough. What is it? I'm trying to think of the name of it. I don't know exactly. Tension. Whenever she does smash down on it, to jump her upwards. Now, she does directly get close to Mr. Compress, as the man does go to try and throw out his hand and attack her. As Mo should actually go to throw out her hand that doesn't have the ring on it. Now, as Mr. Compress does go to reach outwards, he does actually touch his hand into an illusion. As we actually have our Momo, she does appear right behind the man, bring up her hand and going to create a sword. As out of Mr. Compress's gut, a blade does actually come out. Now, the man does at least try and turn around. Momo bring her hand up and grabbing his wrist. I don't think so. When did you? The whole time. How? That's not how this is supposed to. Training. Illusions. You do know they can be solid, right? Now. She does actually go to bring up her hand and go to at least move the sword up more, as she does take out Mr. Compress. Now, with that being said, basically the entire Familia, they're almost completely taken down. Toga, she was easy, since she was basically left on the ground after being knocked out. Now, you do actually have Bakugo and Todoroki versus Dabi. Now, these two are holding their own against this guy, and Deku's bulk weapon along with Dabi's are still facing off against one another. They're smashing through containers and ripping things apart. Now, Dabi's box weapon is just healing itself, using the Sun Factor, along with Dabi doing that to his own body to keep himself going. As we also actually have that, we do actually at least have Deku's box weapon, to which if anyone does know a honey badger, they'll know that it's aggressive as fuck. Now, this does mean that this thing is basically all attack. You can attack its skin, but that doesn't really work, since it can basically at least move around inside of its own skin and go to attack more. Now, All For One did actually look towards Deku. As Deku, yeah, he does stare up at the man. Now, Deku does inform his familiar to go help everyone else. He'll take this guy on as he does go to propagate, turning into 5 people by himself. Now, All For One did look at Deku. That was quite surprising. Now, Deku did inform All For One that today they're going to end this, aren't they? Perhaps, maybe. But are you sure you can kill me, boy? Maybe. You did kill my parents. Touché. Now, Deku did at least blast forwards with both of his hands, as the copies of him do all start to spread out in different directions. Now, this is where one Deku, he does actually have green flames emitting from his hand. Another one, they have different color, or at least the pink flames emitting from their hand, and another one, they do have brown flames emitting from their hand. Now, there is even one with red flames emitting from their hand. And there's one with just regular, as I'll put it, orange flames. Now, this is where All For One, he's looking around. So many different colors. So, I'm going to bring up his hand and go to blast a shockwave in a direction, as the 2 Dekus on the opposite side of the direction go to rush towards him. Now, this is where we actually have our walls start to form around All For One. And he does look around. Solid illusions. Okay. Now, this is where Deku, yeah, the 5 of him, or the 5 of his copies, are rushing and trying to at least take out All For One. And All For One's using quirks along with flames to at least try and fight against them. Now, All For One, he's using particular techniques that Deku doesn't fully understand. Apparently he does know the ability to cancel flames, which is not very good for him. Along with it, he does at least show the ability to absorb attacks and send them directly right back at somebody. That in itself isn't good either. Now, this is where the 5 copies of Deku, they all do go to do X burners. And you do have where all for one he does look at that. Now, he does get to bring up his hands, as he does get to at least start blasting flames in every direction in front of him. Now, he's also at least blasting fire, ice, and wind to try and take out these copies. Now, for the copies that do immediately fall, as you actually have where the last Deku, he's laying on the ground. And, well, he's trying to reach behind him for his gun. Now, off one does come rushing forwards, as does go to bring his hand up and go to smash it down to this person, or onto Deku. As Deku just start to cough up blood as needles, or at least spikes, are directly into his guts. Now, Deku, he does just start coughing up blood. As Deku's familiar, they all start turning in that direction. Now, Dabi is nearly taken down. And, well, you do have where there's less casualties here. Now, Momo should at least start to form Dabi into a bit of a solid illusion, and attempt to take him out using mist flames. Now, this wasn't very convincing, and it did take a bit of a toll whenever Dabi did actually go on offensive, where he completely just blasted flames in every direction, and Momo, she was barely protected by an illusion. Now, Kendo is rushing forwards, as she's trying to at least head for off one, as she's going to cock back her fist and go to throw it out towards the man. Now, off one does go to bring up his hand and go to blast her with sound waves, as she's go flying backwards. Now, off one does start to talk about how Deku, he's such an arrogant little child. How the boy, he really has no tact. He just rushed in the battle without a single idea of a plan, did he? Now, Offwood is going to bring back his hand and smash it back downwards, asking if the boy really thought that being a Vongola changed things. Now, you do actually have for Deku, he is smiling. And we do actually have behind Offwood, where the real Deku, he's standing behind the man, with a gun pointed directly at the back of his neck. Now, this is where Deku, he does just look at the man, as he is going to pull the trigger, and all of a sudden just feel a pain shooting into the back of his neck, before bringing up his left hand and going to pull something out from behind it, as he does look to his left and see the cork-destroying bullets. Now, Offwood's quite alarmed, as his large hand and bulky arm do start to fall down to his right. With how large this thing is, he can't maintain it. His body is stuck like this, and the illusion does go to disappear. Before we do actually have Deku, who he does go to reach out and grab Offwood by his left hand, as does go to pull off the ring and then look directly at the man. Now, Offwood is screaming because Deku took the finger along with the ring. And Offwood's cursing Deku, as Deku does just stare down at the man. Now, Deku talks about how this man, he really should have mastered his flames. 300 years and he couldn't do jack shit with that. Now, Offwood, he's just pissed, screaming at Deku that the boy can't imagine what he's been through in the last 200 years. The last 10 of his life have been hell because of what happened with All Might. Now, Offwood talks about how if All Might never did that to him, the boy wouldn't have stood a chance. Since his flames, he was just like Deku. He knew how to use many. Now, Deku, he doesn't believe all for one, as he does go to do one thing. He does go to bring up the gun, and he does start to pour flames into it, as it does start to glow at the very tip of it, as Deku does fire in a straight line right in Offwood's face, the mask breaking as he does kill the man. Now, Deku does start to bring up his arm, as he does look at it. Now, it still does hurt, but he believes that he'll be okay. Now, Deku does turn towards Kendo, as he does tell her that things are alright now. He's dead. Now, Deku, yeah. He does look back towards the battle with Dabi, where Deku's familiar they are struggling to try and take this guy down. Bakugo can't get into close range because of the guy's flames. Todoroki can't do very much because his flames aren't as hot. His ice isn't as cold either. And well, you do actually have where Denki, he did try to fire lightning at the man. And yeah, it was all bad. Dabi, his phoenix, did actually come in to protect him. And yeah, try to go rush forwards for Denki. It took him out of the battle, but it did leave him alive, since Deku's honey badger attacked it. Now, we actually do have where Deku, he's staring over towards Momo Yaoyorozu. Part of her arm is burned, along with part of her chest. Now, Deku does come rushing over asking if she's alright. To which she does try to explain. She's not so sure. A lot of things do hurt right now. And she does want to at least try to take this guy down, and then they'll figure it all out. Now, Deku's just trying to think. His, well, bullets won't work here. The quirk destroying bullets, they just have to do that. They have to make connections before they can do anything. If they can't get it into that guy's body, it won't work. The flames will just burn up the bullets. And there actually is the regular magazine. He has 5 shots left. So that must work. Now, Deku does actually go to put the magazine in. Or replace the magazine as he does stare directly at Dabi. Now, Dabi does look Deku's way as Deku he is holding a gun. Dabi going to bring up his hand and go to blast directly at him. Deku quickly switching over to brown flames, where a wall of lightning does form in front of his fist as Deku does go to blast out his own sky flames. Now, Dabi, yeah, he does watch that does happen, before Deku does go to bring up the gun and hand it off to somebody. Now, this is where you do have Kendo. She does go rushing towards her right, past Momo as she does ask Todoroki for some cover. Now, Todoroki, he does actually go to use propagation, making 3 copies of himself as they all do at least start moving in front of Kendo. Now, you actually have where Dabi, he does turn his head to see what's going on, as Deku, he does command the jellyfish to take out Dabi. Now, the thing does come flying overhead, as it does try to land directly on top of Dabi before it does just go to move backwards and out of the way. And you do actually have where Momo, yeah, she does try to get back on her feet, as she does start to pour out mist or at least cover the area in large clouds. Now, Dabi's looking all around himself. He's fucked here. There's not many options. This being where something does hit him in the back of the neck. And Dabi, yeah, he's just wondering where that was. He's just going to turn around and going to blast his hands out. Now, you do actually have where Kendo, she's going to bring up one of her hands and try to protect herself from the flames, as the copies of Todoroki, they did just try to propagate more. Now, all the Todorokis were blasted away and killed, just as the bullets did start to work. Now, the short burst that was sent out, it would have killed the Todorokis, as Kendo, she would have gotten barely hurt, or at least 1st to 2nd degree burns. Now, you do actually have where she does go falling backwards and going to grab onto one part of her face, talking about how it hurts. Now, you do have where Deku does go rushing over, as you do actually have where Dabi, yeah, he does just stand there looking at his hands, as he is going to bring up his ring and try to heal himself. He wonders if he can try to burn the stuff out of his system, heal his body before this being where a punch does land him in the gut. and then a second one does come up and go to smash him down. Now, you do actually have Bakugo and Todoroki, who they do just look at each other before giving each other a thumbs up. Now, this is where the Alborenos, they do look at the situation. So, exactly what happened here today. The League of Villains were all taken down, and the Nomu factory, it was also taken out as well. Currently the last thing to do is take out that doctor. Afterwards, things should be smooth sailing from here on out. Now, you do actually have where this Albreno of Sky does come over towards Deku and give her the seal that would unlock the Vongola box. Now, Deku, he is curious about what's inside this box. He's had it for, well, a year. Now, he does just go to open the box as he does go to turn it and let the weapon fly out. Now, this is where the weapon does fly out and Deku does see it. A tiny lion? What is this supposed to be? Now, Deku does look at it, as it does come jumping towards him and begin to start transforming. Now, Deku was quite alarmed, where this thing did actually go to land into one of his gloves and start to turn into a cloak. This being where Deku, he does look towards Reborn. And Reborn, he does just think, Deku is a spitting image of Vongola 1. Now, with that, this is where the police and heroes, they all would eventually have shown up. And Deku and his family, they would have made a brief escape. Now then, this is where Sir Night-Eye, he does at least begin to understand the situation from what he has been told happened here today. Whenever this man was killed, the League of Villains were attacked, and they were also taken down. Only 2 people survived. Or 3, actually. You have Toya Todoroki. You have Toga, I don't remember her last name. And you have Gentle. These 3 villains, they were brought in for questioning. And you do actually have where Dabi, or Toya, people talked about how this man's quirk is gone, since it was reported that he was a flame villain, but he no longer has his quirk. Now, with that being said, we do actually have Deku and his familia. Deku, he has proven himself to be very valuable to the Mafia. And we do actually have a few months later, or let's just say about 10 months later, where Deku, he's reached the age of 18. And he's currently in Italy. Him and his familia, they're attending a ceremony held just for them. Vongola 9, he does come walking up, as he does see Deku sitting down with his familia at a table. Before Vongola 9 does ask Deku to come stand with him. Now, Deku, yeah, he does go to stand up, as you actually have where he does go to move. Now, Deku and his new robotic leg, thanks to Mei Hatsume, they do get on stage, as Deku does look around to see the Mafia all around him, along with many familia. Now, Deku does just start to speak, as he does try his hand at Italian. Now, Deku, he does express to them that he's very happy for this honor, and that he will try to do right as Vongola 10. Deku himself feels that he needs to do that much for Vongola 1, and that he's very happy his familia do live to fight another day with him. They have helped him through many hardships, as Deku does could call many of them up here. Him starting with Kendo first, and then Bakugo, Todoroki, Kirishima, Momo, and Denki. Now, I forgot to include Kirishima in that fight earlier. Anyways, I completely forgot about him by accident. Now, With that being said, we do actually have where Deku, he does express that these are the guardians of the Decimo family, and that all of them are very important to him. As Deku does go to turn and at least look directly at Kendo, as he does go to step a bit more to his right out of the way of the podium, expressing that except for one, who means the world to him. Now, everyone they do look at Deku kind of confused, as Deku does turn directly to Kendo and go to bend down on one knee, as he's going to bring up a ring. Now, Kendo, she's just staring on in shock, as Deku does pop the question to her. Now, Vongola 9, he does drop his wine glass. Along with many of the Familia, they all do start cheering and roaring out for Decimo. Now, Kendo, she does say yes, as she's going to bend down and grab Deku by his face to kiss him. Now, you do actually have where Bakugo, yeah. He knew that nerd was going to pop it, and he's pretty happy. The guy does deserve it. With all the shit they've gone through, yeah, he's found some happiness. Bakugo himself has found a bit of a girl, and he's not telling anyone about that yet, since she apparently is from another family, or familia, so things are going to get a little bit interesting. Now, with that, we do actually have years later. Deku, he is Vongola 10. He's leading the Mafia as their leader, and he's become a very big and popular name in the underworld. Now then, we do have at a meeting table, where Deku, he's expressing his thoughts with many people in the room. Many of them think that the Vongola, they are taking a very different approach from what happened with the previous leaders. And Deku, he does actually express to many of them that he understands their concerns. However, they should all be well aware of what he plans to do. Now, many of the familia or family leaders are standing there with Deku, or sitting there, my bad, talking about how Decimo, he really can't be doing this. He is playing around with lives. Yes, I understand. The lives of your familia. However, Deku is starting to issue off addresses along with names, talking about how these are their corrupt lieutenants. These are their people who are currently issuing and dealing drugs. These are their people who deal with car theft and many other things. All the familias looking at one another, as they go to deny these claims. Deku turning his head and going to bring up his hand as he does wave two fingers out. Kirishima walking forwards and is going to set out a briefcase onto the table, and going to pop it open for Deku. Thank you. Now, Deku, he does going to open it as he's going to start pulling out files, tossing many of them with the familiar's name on it, talking about how these are the corrupt people. Either they need to take out these men, make examples of them for their other men, or the Vongola familia will be at war with many of them. Now, many of the people do look around each other at the table, as three of the men do at least immediately go to side with Deku. They'll make examples of their men, just don't worry about it. Now, many of them know not to mess with Decimo. This man could be ruthless and kind. This man, he's got, well, the traits of Vongola 1 from what they've heard. This man could be best described as the boogeyman, if you piss him off. Along with that, his super intuition, that thing he can do. It's like he has insight from the future. So, it's best not to mess with him. Now, you do actually have where two familias, they do go to stand up, or two leaders of the familias do go to stand up and express that they cannot do that. They have their men's loyalty, and they do not trust the word of Deku going to bring up one of his hands. As one man, he's brought forwards with a busted lip and broken ribs, as Deku does ask the man to confess his sins. Now, the man, yeah, he does express to his boss what he did do, talking about how this is this, this is this. And the man does look on with shock, as he's going to pull a gun from his waistband and go to shoot the man in the face. Now, Deku would turn his head to see that, as he does express to the man that he would be paying for the repairs to that. Sorry for questioning you, Decimo. I'm going to sit back down. As the other man, he does stare at Deku, and Deku does have his left hand up onto his chin, as the flame on his head is burning brightly. It's burning pure black, and that itself does scare them. So, it's best to not piss this guy off. Now, there is the expression on Deku's face. It shows that he's fully in control of the situation. As the meeting it does end, and the men do go to leave. Now, Deku does watch as the men they do leave his house. As Deku does go to walk out of the meeting room and turn off his flame. As you do actually have two people to come running up. Now, Deku does see Eri, who she would be around the age of, let's see, she's 7 in canon. Add those 2 years, she's 9. Let's say she's 15. Now, Eri does come running up with one of Deku's children, or Deku's daughter, as Eri does ask if she can go train and try to at least start to learn about her flame. Sure, you can, just be careful out there. And don't take Inko anywhere where you can't find her, okay? I won't, okay? Okay, I'm trusting you. Stay inside the manor for about an hour. Along with that, make sure your bodyguards are with you. I know. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. This series was a very hard and difficult one to make, since I did have to go through all 203 episodes of the anime and try to look into the manga. Now, the show is actually a very good one. I recommend you guys do watch it, along with looking into the manga. I did cut out a massive arc that would have made this series probably about 20 or 30 parts longer. So yeah, I do hope you guys enjoyed this series. It was a very fun one to record, but at the same time also a very challenging one. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed it.